Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. The show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, September 27th, 2015. This is episode 1224. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by PillPack, a full-service pharmacy that combines personalized service, convenient packaging, and modern technology to make your life easier. Visit pillpack.com/twit to save $20 on vitamins and OTCs when you transfer your prescriptions. And by Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all the ingredients to cook fresh, delicious meals with simple step-by-step instructions right to your door. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's blueapron.com/twit. And by Corning Optical Cables. Corning's incredibly durable Thunderbolt and USB 3-point optical cables are longer, thinner, lighter, and stronger. Go to corning.com/twit and use the promo code TWIT to save up to $50 on USB 3-point optical cables. Well, hey, how are you today? Good to see you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Yeah. So, this is the show where we talk about geeky stuff, computers, the internet, smartphones, smart watches, digital photography, home theater, microwave ovens. No, not so much. Not so much microwave oven. Anything with a chip in it, though. 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. That's my phone number. And really, there's no point in doing this show if you don't call. So would you, please, if you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion, maybe you want some, maybe you're looking at the Sunday ads. Do they still do Sunday? Remember? I guess they do. There used to be big ads in the back of the paper. Remember the paper? Yeah, you don't. No, see, I'm talking. Pretty soon, it'll be like, in the old days, we used to get a hunk of paper delivered on our step every morning. And inside there were ads. And we didn't have any ad blockers. No, we read those ads, and we were glad. That's what one of the things we used to do. On TV, we'd take the big display ads, in the back of the newspaper, the Fry's ads or B&H photo or whatever. And we'd analyze them. We'd tell you, this is good, this is bad. That's not a good price. Can't do that anymore. But you don't need it anymore, do you? The internet, what an amazing shopping tool the internet is. You can always go out and see what the lowest price is. It's not hard to do. And because that's the case now, merchants pretty much try to give you the lowest price because they know you'll know. It's not like a mystery. Even buying a car, not really a mystery. That's made a big difference. And I think that's good for consumers. It's a little harder for businesses because not only are you competing with the guy down the street, but you're competing with people all over the world selling the same stuff, maybe less than you. Maybe their labor costs are lower or their materials costs. I mean, it's a tough world, but for businessmen and women, but for consumers, it's great. Amazing. Of course, one solution to do to all that is to do what Apple does, which is take advantage of the world markets for labor, for material, but then make an object that is a fashion statement. And you know what? You know about fashion, right? You look at those fancy dresses in the, New York Fashion Week was last week. You look at those fancy dresses, tens of thousands of dollars for like $20 worth of material and maybe $5 worth of labor. But it doesn't matter. That's not the point. You don't ask, how much did that cost to make? If you're looking at high fashion, you say, is it beautiful? Is it worth it? And so Apple, very interestingly, over the last few years, has really started to move itself in that direction. I think the watch, now that I think about it, I've been a little critical of the Apple Watch because it's of limited utility. I mean, but I think I misunderstood it. That wasn't the point at all from Apple's point of view. From Apple's point of view, it put them in the fashion space. That's why they had an $18,000 watch. They knew that the, a heretofore Apple customer wasn't likely to spend that kind of money on a watch that'd be obsolete in a few years. That's not the point. The point was to establish its name as a fashion brand. And in fact, didn't Apple just do a deal with the Parisian fashion label Hermès to do a special Hermès watch? I don't know how much it costs, but that's not the point. I didn't look. And of course, you didn't look. Well, who cares? In fact, notice the press didn't even make a big deal about it because that's not the point anymore. It's not about how much it costs to make. So Apple's brilliant. They make it as cheaply as they can in China with the cheapest labor they can find. And then they sell it for a totally premium price. I'm aware of this because I got my new iPhone on Friday. And I decided to, kind of go all out on it. So I got the 6S Plus, which is the biggest one, and I got all the memory and RAM and everything that they would allow me to buy. When you max it out, when you get the top of the line, it's $1,000. Well, $950 plus tax, which put it over in California easily put it over $1,000 for a phone. You can't charge that much unless it's it's a fashion statement. It's a status symbol. And I think that's really what the watch was. That and this is not unimportant to Apple, a way of signaling that you're one of the Apple people. And you notice that. You don't see a lot of Apple watches, in the real world. But when you see one, I do this. I say, how you like it? One of us. That's also really important. When you watch the Oscars or the Emmys and they have the red carpet, what is the first thing that the presenters ask? Whose dress are you wearing? Oh, is that an Oscar de la Renta? It's perceived value. It's fashion. And I have to say I'm a little uncomfortable with it for a few reasons. One, it's not very democratic. It makes it hard to, get the latest, coolest technology unless you are wealthy or you're willing to hawk the house to get it. But more importantly, it puts technology out of the reach of people who can use it, who can benefit from it. So fortunately, the good news is there are plenty of companies besides Apple that realized, there's a market for $50 smartphones. And you think I'm joking, they're $25 smartphones. You can get a $200 smartphone that has effectively the same components and capabilities of a $1,000 Apple iPhone. Close, anyway. Well, it doesn't have that magic dust that Apple sprinkles on it. This $1,000 phone probably doesn't cost Apple more than. It's hard to say, and Apple always says, well, you can't tell how much it costs. You don't know. But there are companies that make a specialty out of figuring it out, and certainly under $200. So that's a lot of profit. That's 400% profit, 500% profit almost. Because they can. It's fashion. You don't ask Hermès, how much did that silk scarf cost to make? You don't ask them that. That's not the point. It's a work of art. But I want everybody to have technology. One of the things I really believe firmly in, that technology changes the world. It's fascinating. Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook just announced they were going to put Wi-Fi, internet access, free internet access in the refugee camps. The hundreds of thousands of families and people fleeing Syria, the war-torn regions of Syria and Iraq and Iran, and trying to get out and make a life for themselves in Europe and elsewhere. Of course, they're flooding the regions, so they're putting in camps. What else, I guess, sad to say. And in these camps, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook want to put internet access. And if your first reaction might be, well, come on, don't you think food and water might be better, clothing, a job? But this is something you have to realize. Technology is important. Almost all of the refugees from these areas have smartphones. They do. They carry them with them because, think about it. If you're saying to your family, you know what, I'm going to try to find a better life for us. I'm going to go to Germany. I'm going to go to Italy. I'm going to go to France. I'm going to get a job. I'll send for you. You need to stay in touch. How do you stay in touch? You stay in touch with your smartphone. You text. You might call, but I think mostly you text and you use WhatsApp, data. So it's really important for them to have access to this. Now, those aren't $1,000 Apple smartphones there in the refugee camps. No siree. But they don't need to be. They're $50 smartphones, Android smartphones, $100 Android smartphones. They get the job done. By the way, shouldn't assume that everybody in these refugee camps is impoverished. They're mostly fleeing a war. It's not about money. It's about getting out of there before you get blown up. But they take their smartphones with them. So I think it's interesting to see that Facebook, for instance, wants to provide them with internet access. I imagine there's a little self-interest there. Sign up for Facebook while you're using the free access in the refugee camp. Wouldn't you like to stay in touch with family and friends using Facebook? And they own WhatsApp, don't forget, which is probably the number one way people are staying in touch. We live in an interesting mix. San Francisco is a perfect example of very wealthy, very poor, side by side. And it's uncomfortable for both sides, I think. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I like the 3D Touch 6S. This is huge. Introducing. I have to say it's better than I thought it would be. I was very skeptical because I'd used Force Touch on these other devices. I thought they were stupid. But even like Instagram, so the idea is you press this extra hard, right? If you just tap it, it'll open Instagram. If you press it a little bit hard, it goes jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. But if you press it extra hard and it taps, then a menu opens. And not every app does this yet. And it's new post, view activity, search, and direct. So the things you do the most, if you Force Touch, 3D Touch, pop up as a menu, which is really, I think, a great power user feature. I love it. You know what? I think it's a major upgrade this time. It's not incremental. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. That's the number, toll free from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. Don't forget our website, techguylabs.com. Kim Schaffer is here answering the phones today. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Wearing appropriately. You're here at the Brick House Studios. It's kind of like high school. When it's a game night, we wear our team jerseys.
Do you?
Normally. You are, and I'm glad. Thank you.
Well, after last week's slaughter, I figured I had to do my part. It was a little bit depressing.
That's all right. It's what they call it, a rebuilding year.
Yes.
We have every year for me is a rebuilding year. We should have a Super Bowl for I don't know what call-in show hosts. Except that Rush Limbaugh would win every time. It's just not fair. What should I do here? I see 6 fabulous people on the board.
How about Thomas in Stamford?
Okay.
He's got some syncing issues.
Not to play favorites, but we have to start with somebody. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, buddy?
It's doing good. It's been a while. I think the last time I talked to you was around a year or so ago. You helped me out with a microphone. You helped me spend some money, and
yeah.
So it was good. Well, first of all, I'm actually pretty excited in getting the new iPhone as well. I did the same thing, spent the money, and it's my first iPhone because I'm getting rid of the Windows Phone that I have. And
Windows Phone, well,
yeah,
I feel bad for Windows Phone. I'm not going to diss it. I thought it was quite impressive. It was a really nice operating system, but Microsoft was late to the game, and developers, chiefly Google, didn't do them any favors, and so the lack of apps really hurt it. I tried, but I couldn't live without my Google.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And I'm also legally blind as well.
How is accessibility on it?
So it's accessibility. Oh, well, see, on the Windows Phone, I give it a 50% out of 100 because it works sort of because I use the screen reader the most.
Of course.
And the narrator feature on the Windows Phone, it doesn't read the things that I really want it to read, or I have to jump through hoops to have it do it for me. And I'm done with it because I need an iPhone where I can process the information to get in my head, especially on the train to work. And so I'm excited.
I think you'll be impressed. Everybody I've talked to, especially if you're blind or have low vision, really thinks Apple's done a good job, I think, with accessibility on iOS. So I'll be very curious what you think, but I've only heard good things.
Yeah. I like my iPad, so it does a good job.
Oh, well, you've already used it then, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So anyway, my question, I was just sitting downstairs, and I thought, I should call Leo about this. On my iPad, what I'd like to do is I'd like to search the files that are on my MacBook upstairs, and I'd like to retrieve them wirelessly and download them on the iPad so I can edit video on the iPad. So say I have like a folder filled with 3 or 4 videos.
Yeah.
I'd like to take those videos wirelessly, download them to the iPad, edit them, and then upload them back to the Mac. Is that a way through my local network?
You know, Apple, when they first conceived the iPad, they really wanted to make it a very simple tool. And they wanted to eliminate a lot of the complexity that you get in a computer. And one of the ways they did that is by getting rid of the whole idea that there's a file system. You know, anybody who's used a computer knows that there's folders and, you know, or directories and files within them, and you can move stuff around and stuff. You don't do that on an iPad. There's no concept of a folder, no concept of files even. I mean, you have documents, but you can only, for instance, open a document within the application that made it. You can sometimes share it to another one, but it's an ungainly process. So they really never thought of it that way. On the other hand, as time has gone by, more and more people are using iPads for productivity, and the next generation iPad, the iPad Pro, is much more about productivity, doing the kinds of things you're talking about. So there are, you know, the way Apple originally planned it was you would connect your iPad to your computer with a USB cable. And some applications, not all, would allow you then to sync files from your desktop to your iPad. Of course, iTunes does that. That's how it gets music on there. Although until recently, there was no way to manage that music on the iPad. You couldn't even delete a song once you copied it over. They just added that capability as we moved more towards a productivity tool. So the first thing, if wired, no problem. You have video files, and you would just sync them up to iMovie. You'd move, you know, you could pick them on the desktop and sync them to iMovie. There is now Wi-Fi syncing on the iPad, but I think that you would still need to use iTunes on your desktop to kind of ingest the file and assign it to an app so that it would then sync to that app, if that makes sense. Another way to do it would be something like Dropbox.
Yeah, I use OneDrive a lot.
Well, yeah, that's right. You're Microsoft. OneDrive is great. And by the way, OneDrive is unlimited storage if you subscribe to Office.
Yep.
So you could put your whole hard drive on there, and then you access the OneDrive. The trick is, on an iPad, then what you'd have to be able to do, and I'm not sure if you can, is you'd be in OneDrive, you'd see all the files in OneDrive, and then you have to select a file and say, open that file with iMovie. And that's application dependent. You'd have to look, if OneDrive doesn't do it, maybe Dropbox would. I'm sure Dropbox would.
Well, maybe Dropbox would do it because all that I want to do is download those videos onto the iPad, and then, okay, now I have them on the iPad.
Right.
I want to edit them in Premiere Clip, and then upload that done file.
Again, the only way to do normal, you know, on a computer, that's trivial.
Yep.
You copy to a USB key, whatever. Yeah. There's lots of ways to do that. On an iPad, because there's no file system, you have to get the help of the iPad's apps to do it. So you have to be able to see the file you want in one app on the iPad and send it to the other app. Now, Photoshop Clips, or whatever it is, Premiere Clips, I don't know if even people know, you know, if other apps know about it.
Well, at least I tried.
Play with it. I mean, for instance, I'm pretty sure you can get Dropbox into iMovie. Yeah. So it's sad because there should be a way to say, oh yeah, it's no problem. You copy to the folder and then the folder and you open from the. You can't open. There is no. If you look at an iPad app, there's no open file app. There's no command to do that.
No, unfortunately.
Because that's something that Apple's going to have to deal with. I mean, I really like the idea of the iPad Pro being more of a tool for editors, for mixers. There's lots of things you could think of that touch is just natural. It's great for editing, for instance. But it's going to be a challenge because the way iOS is conceived from the ground up does not facilitate that kind of easy moving of files around. They may have to come up with a file system. I hope they don't. I think that would kind of, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to solve this. It's interesting to watch, though. So that's my best advice. You just have to play with it till you find two programs that'll talk to one another. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, can I talk about PillPack? This is such a cool thing. I take supplements, a lot of different supplements. take some medication as well. If you have ever been confused about what to take when, or you forget, or did I forget? Do I remember? I mean, who hasn't, right? And the hassle of going to the pharmacy, getting the prescription, whether it's vitamins, prescription meds, over-the-counter meds, PillPack is the solution. I recently discovered PillPack, and I think it's such a great idea. And actually, everybody's going crazy about PillPack. What PillPack does is it pre-sorts your prescriptions into easy-to-tear packets. So this is a brand new one. I'm going to pull it out. Says 8 a.m. Saturday, June 20th. It says what's in there. We get a little fish oil, multivitamins, the kind of stuff I take every morning. And I just tear it off. Should I do it? I'll do it. I just tear it off, and then I've got exactly the right meds or supplements for that day, for that time. You may say, well, I have prescriptions. Don't worry. PillPack will call your physician. So you just go to pillpack.com/twit, sign up. They will deliver your medications directly to you for free in these really brilliant packages. No more trips to the pharmacy. No more standing in line to ask a question. They use robots and digital imaging technology along with pharmacist oversight. So you are always going to there's never a mistake, which is really important. And it's no extra cost besides your just whatever your standard insurance copay is. Shipping is free. Most insurance plans will work with PillPack. It's a snap to switch it. Time Magazine named it one of their top 25 inventions of 2014. I don't know if you read Jill Duffy's review in PC Magazine. I love it. There's even a PillPack medication app for the iPhone and the Apple Watch. The watch will say, time to take your pills. If you've got a family member who's on medication, this is a great solution. And if you have medication yourself or supplements, I just love it. PillPack.com/twit. Lots of attention being paid to this lately. A lot of coverage. To sign up now. And by the way, when you use our link and you transfer your prescriptions to PillPack, you get a credit for $20 worth of vitamins and over-the-counter medications. PillPack.com/twit. Isn't that brilliant? It's brilliant. And easy, by the way, the packages are easy to open. If you have elders in the family who have trouble keeping track of their meds, you see how simple that is? And you know exactly. I've taken it because you know what the next one is. So here's the next one. It's just it's super, super, super easy. PillPack.com/TWIT. I love it. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number. Let's talk high tech with our next caller, who is Che in Orlando, Florida. Hi, Che.
Hey, Leo. How you doing today?
I am well. How are you, sir?
Man, this week has been so bad for me, and anything electronics or technical or anything. I don't know what's going on.
It's that full moon, my friend. It's the blood moon. It's making all our electronics go crazy.
That's what I'm guessing. Hey, you know what's funny is I was just sitting here and I was playing on my flight simulator and I was flying a little F-16 when you guys were playing that.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? That should be your theme song for playing the flight simulator. You should have that running in a loop.
Yeah, right? That's a great idea. Listen, the reason I'm calling is I just bought a new Dell XPS desktop.
Yes.
And for some reason I'll be using it and everything's fine, playing something or surfing the net, and then everything slows down. So I go check my Wi-Fi connection, and everything slows down to like old 56K modem speeds. And I'll run DSL reports, which I got from you, and it'll show those speeds. And then I'll use my laptop right next to it, and everything's fine. So it's not my network.
So when you do the speed test, it's normal. It's not 56K.
No,
it's just the computer is slow.
56K.
Pardon me?
When I do the speed test on my actual computer on the desktop, it's 56.
Oh, interesting.
But if I do it on my laptop right next to it, everything's fine.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I checked my drivers and all that stuff. Like I said, the machine's brand new.
Have you tried it plugged directly into the router instead of via Wi-Fi?
I don't have any cables to do that.
Okay. So the idea, it's always the same. And obviously I can't from a remote distance fix anything, but what I can do is walk through the troubleshooting steps and maybe point you to some directions. So troubleshooting is always the same. You try to narrow it down to one thing in particular. So you've already narrowed it down to that machine. So we know it's something about that machine. What we don't know, is it hardware? Is it software? We don't know. So the first one thing, and you always want to try the easy things first. You don't try the hard things. You know, I'm not going to say rebuild Windows until farther down the road here. The first thing to try is, if you can get an Ethernet cable, is plug it into the back of the router. Because what we're trying to figure out is it the Wi-Fi, or is it the router, or is it the computer? We're trying to narrow it down. And I'll have to be honest with you, I don't have any inside track on this one. I have not. This is not something I've ever seen happen, but there's certainly lots of reasons a computer could be slower. The fact you did the right thing too, doing the benchmark, because you go out to a speed test like DSLreports.com, and you run their speed test, and it really is that slow. Something, probably not software, but something is slowing down the bit rate. If it were, if your browser, pages were loading slowly, email were loading slowly, you could maybe say, well, it could be the software. But if a speed test gives you a really slow result, I think it's much more likely the hardware. So it could be a couple of things. It could be, and this is why I wanted to try hardwire, because if it's a Wi-Fi issue, it could be that you're getting congestion on that Wi-Fi channel. You say other computers don't have the problem, so it could also be the Wi-Fi card, the hardware, or the driver, the software that drives the card could be messed up in some way. But I'm gonna probably, my gut would say go with the hardware. There's some hardware issue in there. And it could be as simple as reinstalling the Wi-Fi. But it also could be more complicated. It could be, for instance, you have conflicting Wi-Fi drivers. A lot of machines, Dell I think included, come with two different Wi-Fi control panels. They have the one that Windows comes with, it's just kind of generic, and they have the one that the hardware manufacturer provided, Intel or Atheros or whoever made the Wi-Fi hardware in that laptop. And sometimes those both are operating at the same time, and that can cause a problem. I would frankly run down to the I wish I could say Radio Shack, but I don't know. Are they still around? Somebody bought them. Maybe they are. Run over to the Radio Shack, or it's a modern equivalent, and pick up a couple of buck Ethernet cable and just bring that computer over next to the router, plug it in, and see if that fixes it. I bet it will. I'm almost certain it will. If it does, then we've really narrowed it down. It's a Wi-Fi issue. And there are a few things you can do. One thing, if you have a laptop or a smartphone, well, it has to be Android. iOS won't do this. But if you have a computer or a Android device that you can put a Wi-Fi sniffer on, you can go around and measure the Wi-Fi signal. Move slowly. You can't move too fast because it takes a while for the meters to register, a few seconds. But you'll note a couple of things. Congestion. Neighbors, a lot of neighbors may have Wi-Fi also. Nowadays, that's more often the case than not. In fact, unless you live in the country, even I live in the country, and I have all my neighbors' Wi-Fi. I can see it all. And sometimes that may be very well what's happening. Your machine may actually not even be on your Wi-Fi access point. It might have said, hey, that's kind of weak, but I see this other one, this neighbor Wi-Fi is pretty strong, and try to get on that, but there's no access there. We have some devices in the house that, and this is not unusual nowadays, that themselves are Wi-Fi access pods without internet access. A lot of media devices kind of put out a signal, and you'll see it, and like the Roku, and you say, what's that? And if your computer is promiscuous, which it can be, it might be joining the Wi-Fi it thinks is going to be better. So the two ways to fix that. One is to make sure the Wi-Fi signal is strong to wherever your Dell is. The other would be to prioritize the Wi-Fi signals or make sure it doesn't see that other one. So you see there's a lot of things that could be going on. I'm going to guess it's a Wi-Fi issue. It could be a hardware issue, but it's more likely something you can fix in software. 8888, ask Leo. That's the phone number. Carlos in Hemet, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo.
Hello.
I have a novice question for you.
Thank goodness. My brain is just getting overheated here.
I have an old Acer. It's 11.5 inch. I upgraded with the SSD. It's got an old i7 processor in it, and I use that for my work notebook.
Yeah.
And then I have a Samsung tablet, which is an old Windows tablet, I think it's the AITV 500 or something like that. And I have an Android Note 4. What I want to do is I have multiple email accounts, and I'm using the Outlook 2013. What I want to do is I want to be able to take my tablet and work with my email, delete and upgrade my the emails, and have that sync with my notebook. So when I open my notebook, it's all synced.
This is, frankly, what most people want to do nowadays. In the early days of email, when hard drive space was precious, the internet service provider did not want to keep your email. What he wanted you to do is get on, download your email, and delete it from his drive. And that's kind of what you're doing right now with Outlook. That's why once you get your email on your Outlook computer, you don't see it anywhere else, because that's what you've done. You've got on the server, you've downloaded the mail, and you've deleted it. Nobody wants that. That's not how anybody wants to work with email. That was only because the internet service providers didn't want to pay for the space. So that was an email protocol called POP, Post Office Protocol. You can continue to use POP. One easy way to do this, not the best way, but an easy way to do this, is to change the settings in Outlook. There's a checkbox in the settings that say, do not delete email from server. That'll just leave it there forever, but it's not the best way. It's just kind of the old-fashioned way. I'll talk about the best way when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I was just, the face rub is because, as is often the case, there's a lot of extraneous information. I was trying to, okay, you got a Note 5? I'm trying to think of, when somebody starts the question with a lot of stuff, as I don't know how much of that's going to be germane, and so I'm trying to, with my limited capacity, trying to memorize, okay, he's got a Note 4, he's got Outlook, and as it turns out, none of that was germane. All he wanted to know was, how do I get my email on one machine and get it on multiple machines and still get it on the other machine? That's easy to fix. Me and my car. Da, 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 da. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the number to call if you have a question or a comment or a suggestion. Bob is on the line from Michigan. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I got a little problem doing some video capture, trying to convert my VCR tapes and digitize them. And I'm not sure why I'm getting such a kind of a jittery or gaps or stops in the digital version. The tape's playing fine, but I'm beginning to wonder if maybe I just don't have enough horsepower in the PC to do it.
Yeah, and so what are you using to do the video capture? So the video capture in this case is taking an analog source of a VHS tape, playing it back into a device that will turn it into ones and zeros. And is that an internal device or an external device?
It's an external device connected through USB.
There's your problem.
Okay.
So USB, especially USB 2, if you have, now that we have USB 3, which is a lot faster, I haven't tried it, but I would bet the video capture devices would work much better with USB 3. USB 2 isn't fast enough to give you high-quality video. And that little dongle that you have that's doing the conversion, it's got to, in real time, compress the video and get it pushed down a very narrow tube, and that's why you're seeing dropouts. It's missing frames. It can't just ignore them. I mean, all it can do is ignore them. It can't take those frames later and stick them in. It's just going to say, well, I never got that frame, so let's go ahead and see what else the Fonz is up to. So
we need to get an internal card?
You need to get a better video capture device.
Okay.
And that could be an internal card. There are quite a few companies that make internal cards. If you have a desktop PC.
Yeah, a desktop.
And that bus, the internal bus, no matter what you put it on, is going to be a lot faster than USB 2.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an up-to-date computer, you might be able to use USB 3 or even better, Thunderbolt if you have it. They make video capture cards that handle those higher speed protocols, and I would guess that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
On those. But it's such a tiny little pipe that that's what happens. You miss frames, you drop frames.
Okay. So internal card and I should be good to go.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is there anyone you would recommend?
I'm not really up on the latest on this. Hauppauge is a Long Island company that makes excellent stuff.
Oh, okay.
With a name that is Almost impossible to spell. I think, the good news is Google knows that nobody can spell Hapag, so they just, they'll suggest it. But it's something like Hapauge.
Okay. I'll check with the...
They're good. Pinnacle makes good stuff. Grass Valley, I think, might have bought Pinnacle, might have purchased Pinnacle. So I think they may be under the Grass Valley name. Those are all very high-quality companies. I used to use a Grass Valley translator.
All right, I'll check with the chat room and see what the consensus is.
Yeah, they may know better. I haven't converted a videotape in a while. I haven't kept up. We used to use it all the time for the streaming video. That's exactly how we would get the streaming video out to the internet, is because we had analog video, which we will then convert. And we use something called ADVC, analog to digital video converter. And I think that at the time they were made by Pinnacle. I think they may be made by another company right now. But if you look for something like the ADVC 110, that's what we used to use. The problem with it is it was at the time FireWire. And nobody makes a FireWire computer anymore. FireWire has disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Leo.
All right. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bob in Michigan. I'm sorry. That was Bob. How about Larry in Irvine? Hi, Larry. Hello.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
Hey, Larry. Good. How are you?
Good. This is thanks for all the help that you've given me over the years. I now looks like I can help people and actually look like I know what I'm talking about when I really don't. So what this question about is I'm trying to help a friend of mine who is a little older, and he's having some failing in his mental acuity, and I can definitely identify with that. I'm a little older than you are. And what I've lost in mental acuity, I've made up for with electronic tools. So I've been really up to speed on the iOS stuff, and that's working well. But he's an Android guy.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm going over tomorrow morning, and my question was, how do I leverage my knowledge of iOS with Android?
Well, here's the good news: computer's a computer, and even though the religious folk will tell you, "My God, you're using Android. Oh, no," or vice versa. "My God, iOS, that's horrible." Or a Mac, no way. A PC, are you insane? It's all the same.
Okay.
It's all really similar. The big difference, of course, between Android and iOS is the operating system has different kind of controls, much like Mac versus PC.
Okay.
But I don't think you're going to have too much trouble. It's just you're going to have to spend some time searching around, just as I have, having used Android for a couple of years. I never stopped using iOS, but I didn't use it very much for a while. And now that I'm using an iPhone full time, I have to remember, you don't go to, you can't pull down the settings from the top of the screen. You have to run the settings app and things like that. That's minor stuff. What is it? So are you going to teach him? What are you going to be doing with it?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is trying to get his machine set up. In other words, the key thing is he keeps forgetting appointments. So I said, look, let's get Google Calendar going. He's got a Google account, which I do too. So what I want to do is get his Google Calendar syncing with he's got a Nexus 6 Moto.
So the good news is, because Android is a Google product, this is trivially easy.
Okay.
So the way Android works, when you first turn on an Android phone, the very first thing that happens is it says, and you don't have to, but you're not going to be able to use the phone very well. It says, what's your Google account?
Okay.
That's the very first thing it does. You enter in your Google credentials, you log in, and at that point, everything's handled. You don't have to do anything. Your calendar syncs with Google. Your address book syncs with Google. You start downloading the apps you had installed if you had a previous Android phone. If you didn't, you now have access to the Google Store. And unlike the iPhone, there's one thing I'm a little frustrated with on the iPhone. I had to enter setting up a brand new iPhone, enter my iCloud credentials 5 times. And
yeah,
of course,
me too.
Yeah, and of course I'm the guy who said, have a very long random password. So I have to look it up each time and slowly type it in. It's painful. On Android, you enter your Google credentials once. The phone now knows what your Google credentials are, and anytime you launch a Google Calendar or anything else, it'll say, you want it to associate with this account that we already know? And you say yes, and you're done. So the process is infinitely easier on Android.
Right, but it's safe to say anything that I can do on the iPhone, I can do on Android. Is that right?
For the most part. There are apps that are available only on the iPhone. Similarly, there are apps that are available only on Android. Their gulf is very much narrowed. It used to be Apple had a huge advantage, and that was one of the main reasons to get an iPhone was the incredibly rich selection in the App Store. That's not the case anymore.
And syncing is always done over the air?
Yes, there is no iTunes to connect to. Another, in my opinion, benefit.
Okay.
No iTunes anymore. Thank you.
Right. And then I saw this thing about I think it's called an Android device manager. It's kind of like Find My Phone in iOS.
The iOS device manager is exactly like Find My Phone, yes. It might, I think there are some other things it does, but basically think of it that way.
Right. Because, he's probably going to lose his phone one of these days, right?
Sure.
So the next thing he is complaining about is the up and down volume on the Nexus 6 is on the side, right where he puts his finger.
I know. That is not good design, is it?
Okay. So I was thinking about getting him a bumper case.
Sure.
Right? That would make it...
there are a lot of bumper cases. You're not going to find a bumper case that won't let you turn the volume up and down because nobody would want that. But there are a lot of them that cover over the buttons. In fact, I have one right here on my iPhone that cover over the buttons, and then you have to press a little harder. You're much less likely to change the volume. Part of it, though, is also he's just going to get used to it. The nice thing about that phone is giant.
It is giant.
So it's easier.
Couldn't believe how big it is.
It's huge. It's even bigger than the iPhone 6S, 6 Plus.
Right.
So,
and that will go up to the latest Android, which I think is 5.11. Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, when Marshmallow comes out, which it will do in the next few weeks, that will go up. What's happening is Tuesday, Google's announcing the new Nexus phones. That's why the price dropped on the Nexus 6 to about half what it was. So those new phones come out on Tuesday, and when they ship, we don't know when that's going to be yet. We'll know Tuesday. Marshmallow, they'll ship with Marshmallow, which will be the official launch of the Marshmallow season.
I see. But the point is, it sounds like those are pushed out. So he'll get a message on
just like iOS. Just like iOS. So, you hear a lot, and some of this is FUD. We call it fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's spread by competitors about Android is, oh my, Android phones never get updated. Any late model Android phone, much like the iPhone, will get a notice that says there's a new version of Android. Would you like it? And you say yes, and you're done, and that's all you have to do. The Nexus 6 is special. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I did get my A7R2, and I have to say I love it. Do you have one yet, A-Tort? It's really great. Although, for a little while, most of the pictures that I take will be with this, because I'm very curious and digging this. I should show you some of this is the, obviously, the iPhone 6S Plus. I'm really intrigued by the live photos. The quality's good, although it's not A7R2 good. It's still a camera phone, but it's good for a camera phone. Beautiful full moon. This is this is already zoomed in. So one thing 12 megapixels give you, and you can see I'm not really doing it justice. Oh, wait a minute, I can load it on the computer, can't I? Photos, right? Yeah. Hey, well, we'll find out. Do live photos work on the computer? Wait a minute, where are they? I must have to turn it on. Must have turned it off. iCloud. iCloud features for photos are only available in the System Photo Library. What does that mean? Oh, use this as the System Photo Library. Thank you. That's clear as mud. Okay. Download originals to this Mac. Yes. Yes. Okay, good. So I have to wait. Do you know if live photos animate on the Mac? No, I think you have to have El Capitan, which I do not have. El Capitan. I have El Capitan. It's you know what? Apple did not invent it. It's been around. Nokia's done it. It's kind of like the HTC Zoe, which I also loved. But the problem with the Zoe, and it may end up being the problem with live photos, is no one could see them. And live photos right now is only available for iOS. Let me see. So if you press and hold, there's a little. Now this one, that's the typical movement, which is, whoops, I forgot, and I put the camera down. It records a second and a half. It's always on. The camera's always on when you're in the camera app. And so what you want to do is hold it on the subject, if you can, for a second and a half before and after you snap the photo. So that's the photo I got. But then if I pop it, it gives you the animation a second and a half before and after. And audio too, which is cool. Let me see if I can. This is a really good one. So that's a picture of Ozzy looking out the window, which is a great picture as a standalone. And if I uploaded this anywhere, that's what you would see. But then I can also see the live motion. This is a perfect example. And I think that's great. I really like that. We shall see if it's well supported outside of the Apple ecosystem. Often that's the case, that Apple does stuff. Well, HTC did the same thing. They did stuff and then it just wasn't adopted. This might be a little different. I know his niece, sweetie. He rode on the Segway with me. I put him in a bag. And he rode in the Segway. He doesn't mind looking his head out the window and getting some wind and motion. But see, it'll never come to Android, right? It'll never be on Google Photos. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it seems unlikely that Google Photos will support it. But I think Apple, in a way, this is good because you still have a good still. You've picked the still, and then you have the additional. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's you putting the camera down. And you can turn that off in the camera, obviously. Yeah, there's a JPEG and an MOV. I know, it's very Harry Potter. Well, there'd have to be some way to signal, okay, now I want to see the motion part. Obviously, 3D touch is limited to the iPhones, but I'm sure that will be the case at some point. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We could certainly talk smart watches and smartphones. I've got the new Apple iPhone. Just came out. It was announced 2 weeks ago. It was available for sale on Friday. I had pre-ordered, got up at midnight 2 weeks ago. And so I got my phone delivered to me on Friday. I can answer questions about it. I got the iPhone 6s Plus, the big screen edition. Last year I used the 6. I was still of the opinion that the littler was more convenient, more pocketable. But I think I'm not alone. I think people are kind of more and more gravitating towards big phones. They've become, because this is your primary computing device, now you kind of want the real estate. You kind of want more. I'm sorry, Kim. You probably don't want to hear this conversation, do you?
No. You're going to help me make my decision.
Are you thinking about... you're an Android user right now.
I am right now, and I plan on...
Are you going to switch?
Yeah, I think so, but...
I have to say, normally on an S year with Apple, there's just a few extra things. Like the 5 to 5S, they added a fingerprint reader. Not much difference. This year, there's a big jump. And I think it's a little harder for people who have last year's phone to decide. I think it might be worth it. Honestly, if you have an iPhone 6, it might even be worth an upgrade to a 6S.
I was really not wanting the improvement to be that good because I just wanted to get the 6 for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, good point. You're right. They dropped the price on the 6.
It sounds like you're saying it's good enough that I should just...
Well, I'll put it this way. I did go to Android a couple of years ago and been using most recently the Note 5 very happily. Love the Note 5. Great camera, great screen, probably better even than this iPhone screen. Just a lovely Android device, a very good Android device. But I am so excited about some of the new features in iOS, and they fixed some of the things that were keeping me off of iOS, or had driven me, I should probably say, off iOS. That I have to say, I think I'm very happily moved back. Now, as people point out, I'm fickle, and maybe in 6 months, and this is why I have to warn you, because you may say, "Good, I'm going to get an iPhone," and then 6 months I'm using my Note 5 again. You might say, "Leo." But just remember, I'm fickle.
I've never used anything but an Android, so it's kind of a scary.
You're the opposite of our last caller last hour.
Yeah.
Somebody who'd never used an Android device and wanted to know what's different. I'll say the same thing to you that I did to him. They're computers. They're very similar in a lot of ways. iPhone is an interesting the philosophy Apple has is interesting because they want to make something more beautiful, arguably better, easier to use. And in order to do that, they lock it down very tight. And so people who use Android are used to being able to do some things that you cannot do on iOS because Apple has decided we know what's best, basically. It feels a little paternalistic to me. We know how you should use a phone. But you can't knock it because, for instance, battery life is much better on iOS because of that. Because they say you can't have this stuff run in the background. You're not allowed. You want to run 5 programs in the background? Too bad. And that gives you better battery life. So there's a trade-off for sure. And there's some things you may say, gosh, I feel a little constrained in this iPhone world. It feels a little paternalistic, but there are reasons for that. It's really very different philosophies. And neither one I think is right. There's just one you might prefer. And for a long time I liked the more open, more flexible. You know, Androids are more geeks like Android because they can mess with it. iPhone doesn't have a lot of
battery life is the big thing for me.
You know
which
what?
is why I'm thinking of jumping.
Me too. But the 6 battery life, the little one, is not as good as the 6 Plus. You really need to get the bigger phone.
Yeah, and I want it, but it will not fit in my...
You know why you want this? Because you can take this phone, you can take it off the charger when you get up in the morning at 7 a.m. and you go to the baseball game that evening. That's the problem, isn't it?
That place sucks down my battery so bad.
Yeah.
You were just there the other night for the ACDC.
3-hour baseball game. And you don't have, and you know what I like to do, which is really crazy. I like to score the baseball game on my phone. Hits, runs, strikes. That'll kill a phone fast. But these big iPhones can get through that and get you home. After the AC/DC concert, I had 40% left when I got home. So, and I was taking pictures. I was doing a lot of stuff.
I went to the game last week and I put my phone in airport mode.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah, people often say that to me. Oh, you get plenty of life out of Android. Just turn off GPS and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and the thing goes forever. Yeah, or maybe just don't ever turn it on and it'll last all night. But that's not what we want to do. We want to use them.
Right.
And especially, I tell you what, this new camera on the iPhone, you're going to want to use it. And for instance, are you an Instagrammer? I think you are.
I am.
And Facebooker?
Yeah.
So for Instagram, the new 3D touch, which is that you press a little extra hard on the icon and it pops up a menu, is great because you can go from the screen to posting a picture on Instagram instantly with one press. What happens when you press a little harder on an icon, and it's not every icon. Right now it's Apple stuff and then Instagram. Although because Instagram's doing it, I think Facebook will be doing it soon. That is for power users. That's for people who say, and this is one of the problems I always had with the iPhone. With Android, you have widgets. You can get right into some applications right from the widget. Or you don't even have to open the application. You know what the weather's going to be. The widget says. Or you can see what Instagram posts are up there because you can see it in the widget without opening the app. This is Apple's response to it, which isn't, they didn't add widgets. It's still just little icons. That's probably another battery-saving feature, incidentally. But for power users, by force touching, or they call it 3D touching, on the icon, you can jump right into the application where you want to be. That saves time. There's no open the application, click the button, go to this, do that. It's much quicker. So I hope more applications will do that. I think that's a nice feature. You want me to tell you what to do?
Sure.
Get the new one. You know you want it.
I do want it.
I'm the devil on your shoulder.
And I had no desire to get the big one until a couple of weeks ago.
You want the big one for battery life.
Yeah.
And I'm an old man, so it's easier for me to read. But I think also just more real estate means it's really a better computer. It's more functional.
It doesn't fit in any of my pockets.
You know, my wife told me that. She said girls' pockets are smaller. I said they
shallow.
are.
They're shallow.
They're shallow.
They don't go all the way down to our knees.
See, my pockets, I could fit this into any pocket of my body. Men's pockets are plenty big enough.
My HTC One doesn't even fit in my pocket.
And you don't want to carry a purse sometimes, so that's a problem. You should do what Lisa does. She gives it to me. Just give it to your boyfriend. Here, honey, carry my stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a ball game or a concert with a lipstick in my pocket and a phone and a wallet. I was carrying a purse the other day because I
have to buy one of those too.
Oh yeah, you need a boyfriend and a 6S. They go together. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Or if you'd like to call and say hi to Kim. You want to carry? Would you like to help her carry her phone? 8888 Ask Leo. Phone number. The website's techguylabs.com. We put everything there. And that's so you don't have to write the stuff. That's dangerous. Don't be writing stuff down while you're driving along, doing your shopping today or whatever you're doing. You listen and it's fine. And you just know that everything that I mentioned, all the links, even kind of like abbreviated versions of what I say will be available right away on the website, thanks to James DeRuvo, techguylabs.com. And then afterwards, we put audio and video. We polish it up, get all the questions and stuff there. And your comments are always welcome. So if you think I'm wrong or you think you've got a better idea, please leave them in the comments. That's great. And all of this is free. There's no sign up. Just go. But don't go now if you're driving. What are you, nuts? Just remember that so you have access to it. techguylabs.com. That's all you need to do. You don't need to write anything down. Coming up in just a little bit, Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. We're going to talk digital photography. Maybe we'll talk a little bit iPhoneography, how to get the most out of your iPhone pictures. If you go to Apple's site, they are so good at marketing. They have a gallery of pictures by professional photographers who really know what they're doing, but unretouched pictures from an iPhone that will blow your socks off. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You could get your pockets extended, somebody says. Might be easier than getting a boyfriend or a husband.
Pocket extenders. Pocket
extenders. That sounds like a Mad Magazine bit. Our show today brought to you by the lovely Blue Apron. We love our Blue Apron. In fact, we have a box at home right now. I can't remember what's in it, but that's the fun of Blue Apron. It's always an adventure in a good way. Blue Apron is for people who like to cook, who want freshly prepared, delicious meals, but they often don't have the time to shop. Blue Apron does the shopping for you. In fact, it even does the meal planning for you. At blueapron.com/twit, you can see how it works. You can see what's on the menu this week. They deliver it fresh to your door, never frozen, by the way. Their boxes have refrigerated. They have ice in them, and that way they are very fresh. They get their produce from local farms seasonally. You never get more than you need, which is really nice. So some of these ingredients, by the way, are a little exotic, which is great. I've found some new flavors I've never tried before. It really is fun. Believe it or not, you can be a gourmet cook. It's not hard. Blue Apron makes it easy, and for less than $10 a meal. Healthy meals, no trips to the grocery store, no waste from unused ingredients. It is fabulous. They even have a kid plan, a family plan that have kid-friendly ingredients. And let's go see what's on the menu. It's hard to do this ad because my mouth always waters. Oh, merguez lamb sausages. I love those. With French lentils and mint yogurt sauce. You know, if it's hot dog night at home, this would be so much better. Seared chicken and caramelized fennel with creme fraiche and roasted cherry tomatoes. Doesn't it? Seared salmon and creamy farro with Brussels sprouts, apple, and hazelnuts. Twit fans get 2 meals free when you go to blueapron.com/twit. Every week, a new menu plan. You never get the same meal twice. Of course, they'll do vegetarian. They'll customize it to your needs. They'll even change the schedule if you're going to be out of town. Pan-seared steaks with cream spinach and lemon butter purple potatoes. blueapron.com/twit. Get your first 2 meals free right now. blueapron.com/twit.
So lunar eclipse.
Is that tonight? Because I got up 3 times last night to see the lunar eclipse.
It starts around 6:07. 7:45 is the peak of totality.
Really? 7:45? Is it going to be dark here by then? I guess it will be.
Yeah.
So that's when it'll be blood red, they say.
All depends on the amount of smog in the air.
It's really about atmospheric disturbances. I think around here it probably will get because we've had those fires, brush fires. But it is the biggest moon you'll see because it's a supermoon tonight. It's at its perigee or apogee. So it's closest to the Earth. There will not be a supermoon lunar eclipse till another one till 2033. Is that right? Or is there not be another blood moon till 2030? Blood moon is a weird thing that some guys made up to sell books.
The supermoon eclipses are like 30 years, 33 years apart.
So that's what they said. 2033 is the next one. Be fun. I did take a picture of the moon with this thing. It's not. Look, you need a good camera to take a good picture of the moon. You can't do it with this camera phone.
Or a big lens.
You need a long lens and a tripod. Or I guess you don't. But that's still that communicates the feeling of that moon last night.
Clouds.
Yeah, it was beautiful clouds. I wish I could show this to people.
I was driving back from the Apple Store last night. It was spectacular.
Did you end up getting a phone?
No. I had my 6 Plus replaced. The touchscreen became unresponsive.
Did you have Apple Care?
I did.
And they just replaced it?
Yeah.
Nice. Is there a deductible?
Oh, here's the thing. It was bad for like 2 weeks. No. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I only could use Siri. The touchscreen would never come on. I could only use Siri. Friday, so Sunday I made my appointment. The next appointment was Saturday. Friday, it's fine. It works great. Saturday, it works great. I take it in. She runs diagnostics. All the diagnostics are fine. But she gave me new one anyway.
Nice genius. So this is an example. Lisa and I are walking after dinner. We had a big dinner, so we took a nice fast walk. And we're walking through Santa Rosa, and we saw a sign that said speed table. I said, what the hell's a speed table? So she goes, hey, Siri, what's Siri doing?
I maybe went to sleep before.
Hey, Siri, what is a speed table?
I found an entry about speed table on Wikipedia. Shall I read it to you?
Yes.
That's new.
A speed table is a traffic calming device designed as a long speed hump with a flat section in the middle. Speed tables are generally
There's a
long
guy
enough
walking
for the
next to us.
entire
He's going,
wheelbase of a
I always wondered what that
passenger
was.
car to be front of. The long, flat design allows cars to pass without slowing as significantly as with speed humps or cushions. Because they slow cars less than...
I have an
similar
English
devices,
Siri, I'm sorry.
Speed tables are often used on roads with
I like the
different
Aussie too. I
residential
might switch
speed
it.
limits.
So we're walking along, and we're listening to this, and it's like I'm thinking we're living in the future. I'm walking down the street, and I just asked my phone what that thing is, and it told me.
30 years ago, I was reading science fiction stories about that.
Yeah, we're living in the future. Is that not amazing?
And it's not dead yet.
She does speak U.S. English. I'm just tired of the old Siri voice, which we've heard so often. I'm not dead yet. Thank God. So, and I have to thank somebody, because somebody gave me a book called Younger Next Year. And I'm so inspired by it. And basically what it says is, after 50, you just got to exercise for an hour, vigorous exercise every day, and stop eating crap. And you can live to 80.
That's what I'm done.
Yeah, look at you. You look great.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to do. So that's why we're walking vigorously yesterday after our foie gras. And I don't think foie gras is crap. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. I'll give you an example of how iOS and Apple differ. Apple has made an application which they put on the Google Play Store for Android users that's called Move to iOS. By the way, you'll need that, Kim. And you run it, and it copies all of your important information to iOS. So it makes it easy to change phones from Android to iOS. Apple was able to do that because Google is kind of like, well, yeah, whatever. They're very laissez-faire. Go ahead. You want to put an app called Move to iOS on our store, go right ahead. Apple forbids, explicitly forbids in its rules, mention of any other operating system in an app on the App Store. Period. You can't put a Move to Android on the Apple App Store. That violates their rules. That's in a nutshell right there. That's the difference. It's kind of the idea of you live in the Apple world, embrace it, that's how it's going to be, versus kind of a more laissez-faire, kind of open, loosey-goosey. Sure, you can move to iOS. We'll see you. Bye-bye. And, I kind of prefer the Google way. On the other hand, there are advantages to being very tightly controlled. You kind of have to decide. I didn't use it. I just fine. I'm going to set up, and I like this, and you've heard me say this. Do a clean install. Whenever you get a new phone, new computer, It's very tempting to move everything over, but you're moving all the problems over too. Just start fresh. It took me a day and a half to set up my iPhone. I kind of enjoy that.
I'm supposed to manually put in 1,000 phone numbers?
No. That part's easy and automatic.
Okay.
Nowadays, and this is why you always hear me tell callers, I forgot I was going to talk about email. I'll talk about that in a second. You always tell callers, I want to have my calendar and contact. Just put it on Google. Because Apple supports it. Even, Windows Phone doesn't really support it very well, but it even supports it. And Google, of course, Android does. So if your calendar and your contacts are on Google, which they probably already are.
Calendar is contacts.
You can tell your iPhone sync to Google, and it will. In 15 seconds, everything will be on Google. Then it's no problem. Or tell your Android device. Wait a minute, you're using an Android device and you don't keep your contacts on Google? Yes, you do.
I do, but if you've said to go to Google/contacts or something.
And you don't see them?
And I only see like 5.
I'll help you.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to do a little in-service for you. Because we do want to do that. It makes it much easier to move. You remember in the old days, you get a new phone, you'd have to laboriously enter your 5 most important phone numbers into the phone?
Then didn't the phone stores have some kind of wire that they...
Yeah, if you were lucky, you went to a store where they had a little SIM sucker and it would take the data off of one phone and put it on the other. But it was painful. Never have to do that again. So I forgot to mention this. Let me talk now about email briefly, and then we'll get to our next call. Don't worry. I am going... Cesar, you're here. I know, from Boston. I want to help you. And we're going to do that in a second. But I did mention to a caller last hour, he was using pop mail. That's the old-fashioned protocol. And in pop mail, because hard drive space was scant, internet service providers used pop mail because the default way it operates is you go to the server, you get your mail, and then you delete it. You've got a local copy. Your internet service provider has no copy. That saves them space. It's not convenient for you. There is a check mark in the setting on pop mail clients, like Outlook, that says do not delete mail from server. And then that way, mail's never deleted, but it's not the ideal way to work. There's a much more modern, better protocol called IMAP that has replaced Post Office Protocol, and IMAP does it the way it should be. It assumes there's plenty of space. Nobody's trying to delete mail. Your official copy of your email is stored on the server at the internet service provider or Gmail. Gmail uses a modified IMAP, or Outlook Mail, or Exchange, or wherever. That's your email's there, and everything's there. Unless you explicitly delete it on the server, it stays there. You make folders. They're there. Everything you do is stored on the server. Then your IMAP client, and it could be Outlook, which supports it. It could be on your phone. It could be anywhere. Your IMAP client it looks like it's getting a copy. What it's really kind of doing is getting an image of your mail, including folder structure and sent messages, and so that everybody has the same thing. Every message is available to every device. There's another advantage. Once you respond to a message, that response goes into the sent folder, and it's there on every device as well. So you can see, did I respond to him? And you can see, yes, I did, on any device. That's how you want to do it. Google does that with Gmail. That's a nice free way to do it. There are many companies that offer IMAP servers. I use Fastmail. I love that. You have to pay for that one. And you should ask your internet service provider. Most internet service providers now have IMAP as well. Hard drive space is cheap. So the simple way to do it is check the box that says don't delete mail. The better way to do it, which is a little more complicated, is find an IMAP server and use that instead. It's better. Hi, Cesar. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I actually have a question. I've been doing research about this for a while now, hoping you can help me somewhat.
Go right ahead.
I am looking to build a small local radio station. So I'm just wondering what would be the best type of a transmitter and antenna combination, if there was any brand out there you would recommend, because I have been unlucky with my research.
So, as you know, I'm sure, the FCC regulates radio stations. You have to get an FCC license. However, the FCC has allowed for something called low-power broadcast radio stations that are legal. So There are pirate radio stations. We have one in this area. It's a great country station, but it's sitting on a commercial station's frequency. And if the FCC tracks them down, and they will eventually, they're going to be put out of business. They might pay a huge fine. They might even go to jail because it's illegal. Right. So make sure you're operating legally within FCC limits. If you go to FCC's website, you can read about unlicensed low-power stations. They can be in the AM or the FM band. There are power restrictions on them. So you want to make sure. Now, you asked me what company. Now, assuming you know that, let's talk about hardware when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Wasn't this question on Screensavers yesterday? Low power FM?
Was it?
You were talking about low power FM.
Were we? Oh, no, that was different. He wanted to have a party mode, like a Sonos party mode in a house. And then yesterday, the guys wanted to do, for hard of hearing people who are watching TV, and so we said get an FM transmitter. So we've answered this question 3 times in the last 24 hours, but for different uses. Yeah. Mama, don't take my Kodachrome. It's time to talk photography. Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, is here. Real briefly, Cesar, I did find a great website for you if you're interested in starting low-power broadcasting. This is a site that has all of the different companies that make transmitters. Not just in the U.S., but all over the world. It's transmitter.org. That's easy to remember. Transmitter.org has a directory of low-power transmitters in the LPFM section, and you can read all about that. And I think Ramsey is, they're a New York company. I believe that Ramsey is one of the companies that focuses on that. I, again, would remind you, you got to adhere to FCC rules, so read up on the rules. Most people these days aren't broadcasting. They just do it on the internet, like us. Chris Marquardt, he does a podcast called Tips from the Top Floor at discoverthetopfloor.com. I do about 20 other podcasts during the rest of the week. The internet's a boon for radio.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Hey, Chris, how are you? You're coming to the United States.
I'm coming to the United States for 2 workshops, and I might drop by and say hello.
I would love that. We always love it when you come by. It's a lot of fun.
I'll be around.
Now, today there are a couple of topics. We should mention that this would normally probably be our review day for our harvest assignment, but I'm going to put that off for a few weeks while Chris is in the U.S. When you come back, we'll give you another month to take your harvest pictures.
And we'll have an even bigger harvest of pictures.
Because there are a couple of things we really want to talk about. Tonight is going to be a rare full moon. It's a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses always happen in a full moon, but this is an unusual full moon because the moon is closer than it is any other time. It's at perigee, which I think means it's about 13% bigger and equivalently brighter.
They say it's about 30% brighter, and it's
a lot brighter.
It's what I think they call it a super moon, which usually is not that interesting, but this one kind of combines with the lunar eclipse. So we have a bigger moon, like 13% bigger, 30% brighter.
Good time to take pictures.
And it's a lunar eclipse, and that will typically turn into a bit more of a reddish color on the moon, which, by the way, here's a good trick. You can use your white balance on the camera to make it even more red if you want to. So some of those really red photos are usually done by tweaking a bit of the white balance on the camera.
So you should,
and then I
check.
I think some people actually call it the blood moon, which is a weird term, I think.
And there's some book. It has to do with 4 lunar full lunar eclipses without partial. It's not as an astronomical term. We don't have to worry about that. The moon's at perigee. It's big, it's bright, and it's going to have an eclipse, which means you're going to have a big, bright, not quite bright red moon.
Well, the brightness is, by the way, a bit of a problem. If you want to shoot the moon, if you usually want to shoot a full moon, a regular full moon that is not a lunar eclipse,
it's so bright.
It's so bright that that the cameras will, on their automatic settings, always overexpose it. So you will have to shoot in manual mode. You'll have to tell the camera what to do. It's almost as bright as daytime. I mean, it's the sun being reflected by a rather bright surface. So it's a bit darker than the sun, but not as much. So normally you would shoot this with a low ISO, like an ISO 100, a bit of a shorter shutter speed in the range of about 100th of a second. the aperture of the camera not too wide open. So we're talking f11 or something for an aperture. And that'll work fine for a lunar eclipse. But if you try those same settings, this will work fine on a full moon. But if you try those settings on a lunar eclipse, yeah, you're out of luck because it's going to be much darker than a full moon. So here we're really talking tripod territory. You put your camera on a tripod. You raise the ISO to something along the lines of 800 or 1600. You want to probably expose for several seconds, not too long though, because the moon is fast, and if you have your camera on a tripod, and if you're exposing for longer, like I would say 10 to 15 seconds, depending a bit on your focal length, the moon is going to be blurred because it's moving fast. So it's really one of those things where you need a bit of trial and error. You need to try it out, play with the manual settings on your camera. Again, the basic settings I just gave you, but you will have time to do that because the eclipse is about an hour and 10 minutes long. So the full eclipse is really over an hour. So you have a lot of time to do trial and error.
That's a lot better than a solar eclipse. You only get about 8 minutes.
Oh, yes. Exactly.
So yeah, you could try different things. Could you use it? Could you use it on an iPhone? You probably couldn't use a camera. You could.
Well, here are a few issues with that. Of course, if you just point it and shoot, the smartphone, your iPhone will see a lot of dark in the sky, and then it'll make that a bit brighter, and that will overexpose the moon. So you end up with an overexposed little bright dot. That's one issue, but you can fix that by tapping the moon with your finger and holding it for a couple of seconds, and that's when the iPhone will lock the focus and the exposure on the moon. And then next to it you'll see this little sun symbol, and you get to slide that up and down to adjust the exposure. So you can have the focus locked and then adjust the exposure up and down until you have a moon that doesn't look overexposed, and that will do the trick even on an iPhone. But of course, the moon is not very big in the sky. It will look huge if it's over the horizon. You know, the moons that look like, wow, this is a big moon. That's a bit of an optical illusion. You will actually find that it's very, very small. So there might be something in trying to zoom in. There's a digital zoom in your smartphone that will make it a bit bigger, but then you get some digital zooming artifacts. But it's worth a try. It's definitely worth a try doing that. A general thing to think about is just the moon is usually everyone takes that photo that has just the moon on it. If you manage to get something interesting in the foreground, some landmarks, some reference, together with the moon, those are typically the pictures that pop more, that make more of an interesting
much more
subject.
Interesting, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've taken picture. I'm the one that took the picture of the moon by itself, and it's like, oh, nice.
Oh, I did too. Everyone does. I mean, this is one of those things you need to try. You have to get under your belt because it's an important tool in your digital photography tool belt to be able to do
at least
these
I
things.
could do it. Tripod, long lens, longest you got, right?
Cool.
And don't do a time exposure because it's going to be moving, so that's just going to blur it. You're going to need to open up the lens. You're going to
we're talking something around, let's say, keep it under 10 seconds, and then you should be fine. And if you have a bigger camera with interchangeable lenses, use the longest focal length that you can use.
Yeah.
Because 600 millimeters is nothing for the moon.
Right.
I mean, we're talking almost telescope range there.
Right.
So
it seems bigger than it is.
Break out the long lenses, yes.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to do it manual because it's going to be too bright, so you're going to have to override.
Yep.
And
but again, with a smartphone, you can give this a try. Tap the moon, hold your finger on there for a second. It'll lock the focus, and then you slide up and down on the display to adjust the exposure. And this way, you should get something decent in terms of exposure.
The best thing, if you really want an assignment, go out today and scout some locations where you'll be able to get the moon rising in an interesting position, right?
Next to an interesting landmark, which means planning. This means planning. There are actually some tools out there. One that I've used, it's not a cheap app, but it's an app that is available on the iPhone and I think also on Android. It's called The Photographer's Ephemeris, TPE. and that will allow you to like see where the moon is going to rise on a map, and then you can find out if the location that you want to shoot from is going to work with a certain landmark. Certainly something, if you're really into it, to take a closer look. Again, I think it's about $10. So
yeah,
you have to be
just
really
go to
interested.
We'll put this in the show notes. Photoephemeris.com. For Chris Marquardt, go to discoverthetopfloor.com. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad we did that. And I will mention that it's harvest. And actually, you know, we could say, somebody's suggesting a mini assignment for the Tech Guy group. Renee is suggesting it. Thank you, Renee. So Renee Silverman, I'll mention this. Renee's going to do a mini assignment on the Tech Guy Flickr group. Send your blood moon shots to Tech Guy. Renee, what tag would you like to use? Blood moon? So let's use one word, blood moon. There's a website, mooncalc.org, you could use. I want to find a because it's 7:45 our time. It's early in the evening. So I'm gonna.
It's gonna be 7:45. It must still be before around.
It'll be like
it'll
be like a moonrise. That's why.
So the moon will be in the sky. The sky not being fully dark yet, but you should still be able to get something interesting. Okay, actually, that should be interesting because then you will have some light. You will get into a constellation that is similar to the blue hour. You know, you have the buildings lit and the moon up there, so you can actually have buildings and the moon exposed at the same time on the same picture.
So let's do that, John. We're going out.
Well, and I will not do it because the eclipse will be at 4-something a.m. in the morning here. And
thank you, Renee. So Renee Silverman's setting up a little mini assignment. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Renee.
Moon. Yeah, isn't that nice? I appreciate what you do, Renee. Really appreciate it.
Oh, and I love the group. I mean, what are we looking at here? We have 5 million people. No, 12,195
That's great.
members.
That is nice.
4,500 photos, 222 discussions. That's the biggest forum and discussion place that I've seen around any of the photo groups that I've been part of. So
yeah, well, that's great. Thanks to you, Chris. People are really interested.
Thanks to
our vast listening audience. Yeah,
this is amazing.
Great. Well, I won't see you for a month, but I will see you October 6th.
I'll send you an email with the details.
I'll bring my A7R2 and Leica lens in with me so you can borrow it. Play with it.
That's fun.
All right. See you later. Take care.
All right. See you. Take care.
So TPE does have a desktop version that anybody can use for free. So you have to then put in your address. Moonrise is at 1856. Sunset's 3 minutes later. It's perfect. Chuck did the math. Thank you, Chuck. The moon will be 5.5% closer, hence 5.5% bigger during this, quote, supermoon. And since the brightness is the square of the diameter, it will be 5.5 squared, or, about 25% brighter, almost 30% brighter. So there you go. And he did mention, Chris Marquardt did mention the photographer's ephemeris, but you can actually do it for free on the web. They have a free web app at Photo Ephemeris. Ephemeris is EPHEREMIS. If you want to go to the Tech Guy Labs site, you can click the link there. We'll put it up there. And they have an app, and you can just enter in your address. You don't even have to know your longitude and latitude, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. For instance, we're not gonna get a total eclipse here. We're only gonna get a partial eclipse. The East Coast will get a total eclipse.
It's just before sunrise.
But we won't be able to see it. But the moon comes up at 1856, and the sun goes down at 1859. So we're gonna have a very nice kind of magic hour. So I think, this would be fun to kind of find somewhere, maybe a hill or between two buildings, and figure out where you're going to have the moonrise. And, we may have clouds. We may have a lot of clouds. We may have a little clouds. If we're lucky, we'll get a little bit of clouds, just for some interest. It's kind of fun, isn't it? 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number that Frank called. He's in Vancouver, Washington. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I am getting back into my computer editing. Caller, I think the last hour you had somebody talking about taking VHS tapes and digitizing and all that. And I've been doing it, and I have a 5-year-old HP with 8 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte. And I've been using Adobe Premiere Elements.
Excellent.
The rendering and the time to process after I got everything put together for like a 2-hour video, which is the max I usually do, it takes forever.
Yeah,
like 5-6 hours.
Yeah, welcome.
and I want to upgrade because it's been 5 years. And I was looking at the Dell XPS 8700s with like 16 gigs with 2 terabytes. Am I going to see much of a difference in processing if I do that with an i7?
It may still take an hour, but that's 8 times faster or 6 times faster.
Oh, yeah. So you think 16 gig would be good enough to go up from 8?
Yeah, more RAM is good. So rendering is really taking a file that's in one format and putting it in another format. It's actually transcoding. And if you have edits, well, it has to add those edits in as well and save it out.
I put little slates and cut out all the bad video, and I try to make it look nice.
Right. So some programs just do that with the CPU. It really kind of depends on the program you're using, whether it will use the CPU or the GPU. The faster way to do it is with the graphics processing unit, but I don't know if many programs use that. The other question is, does the program use multi-core or multi-threading, and will use all 4 or all 6 cores of the processor? But if the software you're using does, and I truthfully don't know about Premiere Elements, but I bet Premiere does, so I would figure Elements would.
Okay.
You should see some real benefit.
I was going to upgrade to something. You guys use Adobe Premiere, don't you, at your studio? Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do, and we do it on massive Dell machines with dual video cards, dual graphics cards, NVIDIA graphics cards. And I'm pretty sure the reason we put those in is because the Premiere transcoding will use the GPU. So obviously we want to get it as fast as possible. It's always the bottleneck, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of work. And in fact, what you're doing, video editing and then transcoding for delivery, is one of the most CPU-intensive things you could do on a computer. It's right up there with video gaming. So, yeah, it's completely reasonable that a 7-year-old computer would feel slow. But don't expect it to happen instantly either. I mean,
No, I figured I just was 5-6 hours, sometimes 8 hours, depending on what I've done. If I have a lot of edits, I know it takes a lot longer. So, but 4 gig graphics on an NVIDIA GeForce, like that's a Dell unit I'm looking at. You think that's going to be a significant
Which GeForce is it?
GTX 745.
Yeah, it's the number that matters. So the 780s, I mean, there are more recent ones that are faster. I wish I were better. I were more up on this because I'm not sure with Elements whether it's going to use the GPU. If it does, you will absolutely benefit from a faster GPU. It isn't how much memory is devoted to that. The memory on a graphics unit is not as important as the speed for what you're doing.
Okay.
You know, certainly somebody in the chat room suggesting, and you're absolutely right, UJ, that PC Perspective is a great blog for looking at reviews, pcper.com. But what you really want is to know a very specific usage, which is video, encoding. And for that, I'm not sure they test against that. I'll you know what? Let me ask some of our engineers. If I wish Russell were here, because he would know. What will make the difference? Certainly, RAM, CPU, and GPU are all involved, but some will be more involved than others, and will make a bigger difference. I think you're going to be happy.
Okay.
If you can get a better GTX card, a higher number, a 750, a 770, 78, 780, that should speed it up.
Okay.
I think we have. I'm trying to remember what we have in here. I have it written down somewhere. But we have dual NVIDIA cards in there, and I'm convinced that that's to speed up rendering. It's one of the slowest things we do. PC Perspective, according to DivM in our chat room, recommends the GTX 750 Ti for video encoding.
I will look into that. I appreciate your help.
You're welcome. I think you're going to, no matter what you do,
I'm going
see
to
a massive improvement.
In front of it too long.
Yeah, but it's enough time to go get dinner no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I do. I go outside and work in the yard.
Yep. Hey, that's not bad. This is a hard thing to do. It's doing a lot of work on this. That's and we have fast computers. Yeah, I mean, things have. I've talked to people at Pixar, for instance, and the amount of improvement in rendering. Imagine those guys are taking these very elaborate frames, and they have to render them. They have to turn them into an image using a lot of heavy-duty math, and that can take a long time. They'll use multiple computers, and it may still take a day. So the Adobe stuff, and I'm not sure this. So the deal with Premiere Elements is a cheap version of Premiere, and really great. But in order to keep professionals from using it and saving $700, they have to take some stuff out. It'd be my guess that'd be one of the things that Premiere Elements wouldn't do as well as Premiere. I'm just guessing. Premiere does use the GTX 750 Ti specifically, according to DivM. So, but that's the question. You might have to do some digging on Premiere Elements specifically. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, will be back with more of your calls right after news at the top of the hour. Don't forget the website if you want a link or something I've mentioned here. It's all there, techguylabs.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come right after this. We were talking about longer, better cables, the other day. I think yesterday we were like, how to get a longer USB or Thunderbolt. And I mentioned these Corning cables. I love these cables, and I want to thank Corning for making this possible. So they sent me a kit so I can explain. First of all, I think I don't have to tell you, optical is going to be faster, longer throws. They're going to do a better job for you. And Corning makes these cables not just for Thunderbolt, where, of course, the high-end pro users are going to be using Thunderbolt and video and stuff. They also make USB 3 cables. So you can get, they call it the USB 3-point optical cable. You can get this in a variety of lengths, up to 165 feet, which for USB, until now, was unheard of. They also make the Thunderbolt cables, the Thunderbolt optical cables. These can go up to 200 feet. You can declutter, you can move peripherals into the other room, you can improve your productivity, you can increase your security by locking up expensive gear. We talked to somebody about a fire safe with a hard drive in it. They make those with a little USB adapter. This would be perfect for that. Perfect. So here's the deal. In the past, I know the fiber optics we have downstairs empowering our SAN. I remember getting strict lectures. Do not step on them. Do not bend them. We actually suspend them from the ceiling so that they won't get damaged. But Corning, they're brilliant. They're the masters of glass. They have figured out how to make incredible fiber optic cables that they don't break. They're flexible. You can even step on them. So I got a little demo here. This is a laser. There's a little blinking red light coming out of it. And I'm going to put one end of the optics into there. So the way fiber optic works is these are glass fibers, and the light literally goes down the glass fiber and comes out the other end. And now, of course, it's blinking faster than that because it's ones and zeros. So it's actually sending data. In fact, sends data at a very high data rate. These cables for Thunderbolt will go to 20 gigabits a second. For USB 3, they'll go to 5 gigabits a second. These are really fast. So this light would be, blinking a lot faster, but you wouldn't be able to see it if it were. So can you see that? All right. First demo, which is kind of already, just tie a knot. You could not do this in the old days. That would break the glass in here, but they've come up with these new flexible glasses. Still blinking, right? All right, let's try this. This is the crimp test. I can't even believe this. I'm getting kind of a weird feeling just doing this. I'm going to crimp these cables, jam them into these holes. You could not do this ever on a regular cable. This will not impact this cable. It's going to not only survive, but the transmission rate will be the same. Corning really is amazing on this. Look at this. All 4 of them. Crimped like crazy. The laser's sending the light. Now, will I see a light on the other end? Yes, I do. Can you see it? That is amazing. Corning cables. They're Thunderbolt and the USB 3-point optical cables. They cost a little bit more because they're the very, very best. And we're going to help you get a little bit of a deal on these by going to Corning.com/twit. You'll get $30 off the 30-meter and $50 off the 50-meter USB 3-point optical cables, and there's no limit. So you can recable everything in the office. Buy as many as you want. If you're a professional, if you do music or video, you want the highest speed, you want the highest reliability, you want Corning. Corning.com/twit. And we thank them so much for their support of the Tech Guy podcast. Just amazing. It takes a twistin'. What I came up with something the other day. What was it now? I can't remember. It takes a twistin' and keeps transmitting. I love it. Corning. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. I lent Kim Schaffer my phone. I'm never... Do you like the pink?
I love the pink.
Yes, he's not that pink. I thought it was going to be pink.
It's not obnoxiously pink.
It's shimmery, so it's kind of, it depends on the angle of the light. It can be gold, anywhere from gold to copper to pink. And I think some guys are so secure in their manhood that they don't mind carrying a pink phone. Actually, I really think it's quite pretty. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Dave's in Cape Coral, Florida, with a very complicated question. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for holding on. What can I do for you?
Hey, I'm kind of a geeky guy, and I'm using all kinds of different in the cloud things, and I bumped into a problem I don't have a solution for. I have OneDrive on my computer. It's a business OneDrive. I don't think that's going to make any difference. And I have files synchronized into that OneDrive, and one of the files that's synchronized into OneDrive is a file that's synchronized on SharePoint in a different location.
Okay.
And that location is no longer available.
No.
No. So how do I get the OneDrive to quit thinking that it should be synced?
Oh, I see. So it's set up in OneDrive to sync to SharePoint.
Well, effectively, yes.
And do you, okay, you're asking the wrong guy because I don't use SharePoint, so I have no idea. But did you set this up or somebody else set it up?
No, I set it up, and since...
You don't remember the checkbox that you checked that said, hey, put it in SharePoint too.
No, that's not the issue. The SharePoint portal that was up is not up anymore, so that link is no longer valid. But OneDrive doesn't know that.
Yeah, but OneDrive doesn't do it by default. You had to have told it to do that at some point.
Oh, yeah, originally.
Well, is there nowhere to... Can you not go to the same place that you told it to do it and tell it to stop?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's why I'm calling you.
Boy, I'm hoping somebody in the chat room knows. It's OneDrive for Business, so that's a little different already.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to matter. Really.
Yeah, well, then maybe that matters in the commands. I don't know. And then he somehow at some point set it up to share the file to SharePoint as well. And what he'd like to do is disable that. And I have no idea because I don't use SharePoint. I would presume it'd be in the same spot you turned it on in. But have you gone into the OneDrive settings and looked at the sync settings?
I did, and it says that it can't sync it.
Oh, I see.
That box, interestingly, which is actually the case, it can't sync it. So in that box, you get to highlight that file, and down below there's a dismiss box.
Yeah.
Which means...
Do you have somewhere in your OneDrive settings, or maybe it's in your Microsoft settings, accounts set up? What I'm thinking is that SharePoint account is one of the accounts in there. If you delete that account, if you remove it from your settings, I would think you'd not see it anymore. All right, we got to somebody. Thank you. Somebody used the Google. They're amazing. Thank you, Raymond.
Okay.
And we have a support document from Office, office.com that says stop syncing a library with the OneDrive for Business app.
That's it.
I think that's what you want to do, and rather than walk you through this, because you're right, it's not exactly obvious. It's a couple of steps here. I'm going to let you look at that. We'll put that in the show notes at techguylabs.com, or you could just search support.office.com, search for stop syncing a library with OneDrive, and I think you'd probably find it pretty quickly.
All right. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm sorry I'm not much help. I don't use SharePoint. I don't really have occasion to use SharePoint. So I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. But thank you, Raymond Toth, in the chat room, because he did. G. Scott's next. Hey, G. Scott, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How are we doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I just had another little issue. Thought I'd give you a holler and see if you could help me out here.
That's what I'm here for. And you know what? As we've just learned, even if I know nothing about it, somebody in the chat room will.
Yeah, there you go. So, 13 months ago, of course, I bought one of the last Vios. And I've been a Sony fanboy since my second computer, and so I thought I'd give them one last shot. And, of course, 13 months in, I'm starting to get random shutdowns.
Now, generally speaking, when a company gets out of a business, as Sony has gotten out of the Vio business, they still offer support. They can't just say, hey, you're on your own. See ya. Bye-bye. So is there no longer any support for your Vio?
Well, I've done some Google searching and such, and I think I've kind of narrowed it down to the fan. Okay, so there's diagnostics on
So you're going to try to fix it yourself?
Yes. And
that's the true American do-it-yourself spirit that I love so very much.
Yeah, well, you know, I was in there. I looked because I thought it was maybe a bug even got in the fan or something. It was making a noise, kind of like when a fluorescent light is going out, you know, that little buzz, ticking kind of a buzz. So I opened it up. I blew out. There was some dust in there, but not terrible.
Yeah.
But when I use it, it's a laptop. When I use it on my lap, maybe in my robe or maybe with loose pants, pajamas, whatever.
It heats up pretty good, I bet.
Today I'm using it on a notebook, a 3-ring binder, and it hasn't shut down at all.
Oh, so you've pinpointed it. I mean, a computer will shut itself down to avoid damaging components. And heat, of course, can damage components. In fact, on every computer I know of, there is a temperature sensor on the processor, because the worst thing would be for the processor to get too hot. It would actually damage it. So it will always shut down. It's hard to do. You have to get it pretty hot. I think you're right in suspecting that the cooling apparatus is not working as it should, maybe the fan. But you found a solution.
Right, and I just want to kind of double check. Now I ran there's a Biohazard Diagnostics. The CPU showed good, no problems. The memory showed good. So probably haven't damaged those components from heat.
Oh, no. It'll protect itself. You can go to CPU ID online and download a motherboard monitor that will give you the actual temperatures, and you can watch those and keep an eye on them. The other thing you can do very inexpensively is, and this is kind of like what you're already doing, but on eBay they sell USB laptop fans. They're really stands for a laptop. They're little tiny plexiglass tables, often with 5 fans built in, and they blow on the bottom of the laptop, and they are very effective. It's not unusual, frankly, for laptops to overheat. That's a tight space. There's a lot of stuff in there generating a lot of heat, and as laptops age, they don't cool themselves off as well. You were right to check for dust or blockages, but a fan bearing could have died. There's all sorts of things that could go wrong. Even the thermal paste that they use to connect the cooling system to the microprocessor, usually you can't just sit it on there. They use a small amount, tiny amount, very thin film of a thermal conductive paste. Sometimes they have silver in it that will conduct heat, and they just put a little daub of that on the processor, and then they put the cooling unit on top of that, make sure that there's a very good thermal connection between the two. But that can sometimes dry out over time, and a year and a half is not very old, but it can actually stop cooling very well. All of those things happen in laptops. And in a laptop, there's not a lot you can fix. So if there is no Sony Depot anymore, nowhere you can drop it off, you're doing what you can do. I would, if this fix works for you, then that's fine, but I would look it on eBay. You could just look for laptop cooling fans. They're inexpensive. I mean, literally, they're usually around $10, and they do an excellent job. We did some tests, and I think it reduced the heat of the laptop internally by 10 degrees centigrade, or Celsius. I can't remember. They've changed. They don't call it centigrade. They call it Celsius now. That's a lot. Certainly enough to keep it operating in parameters. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Great to talk to you, G. Scott. Thank you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 88. Ask Leo. We're talking high-tech, smartphones, smartwatches. I don't think I've gotten one call ever about the Apple Watch. Not one. How great it is, how terrible it is, nothing. That's worse than being a flop. That's like nobody even cares. I wore it today. I've been wearing it for exercise. It's a good, it's a decent exercise monitor. What it does do, and what all these smartwatches do, is heart rate. So, when you exercise, you kind of want to wear a heart rate monitor so you can get in the right zone, right? And usually you have to wear a strap around your chest. Is it accurate? It seems like it's accurate. I should probably compare it to a Polar, like a real heart rate monitor, but it seems pretty close, and it does it all the time. The Apple Watch every 10 minutes measures your heartbeat. So you'll know when you're dead, I think, is the idea.
My much cheaper Fitbit does it too.
Your Fitbit does your heart rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you want to use it as an exercise band, get an exercise band. But I'm trying to find a reason to get it. For you to get it. I want to sell more Apple Watches. Jeff in Indiana, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. No, I don't really care. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Leo.
How are you?
I'm great, sir.
What can I do for you?
Well, let me first off start by saying you're missed on the TV station because I used to love to watch you and your associates.
We had great fun. Tech TV was, I think everybody now realizes that it was the best time ever.
You guys were so informative, even for us geeks. I mean, we thought we knew it all. You showed us differently.
It was really fun. Well, I hope you'll find your way to our podcast network, Twit. We've even resurrected the screensavers. We do the new screensavers, and while it's not everything Tech TV was, certainly that would be very hard to recreate. I think we're getting some of the way there. Certainly, I think you'd enjoy some of it.
I think you're even better now, Leo. To be honest with you.
Well, that's awfully nice of you. Thank you.
Okay, here's my question. I've got an HP laptop Pavilion. It's about maybe 3.5 years old.
Okay.
I was having an issue with Media Player on Windows 7. There was an issue about building an unknown library, so forth and so on. So I went out and purchased a copy of Windows 10.
Ah.
Pro,
because you're a professional.
Well, I used to think I was. Anyway, I installed it. Like a dummy, I didn't look and, find all the little specs and everything.
Yeah.
But I figured it was Windows, they'd come out with fixes and all this kind of stuff sooner or later. Here's my problem. You know how on a laptop you've got an extended video that you can use for, like, dual display.
Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah.
Well, on Windows 10, it's not backwards compatible. They've done something that you can duplicate the screen, but you can't extend it or do anything else with it. Do you know of any way of being able to work around that?
I'm sure there will be a fix. So my advice to everybody, I understand Microsoft is really pushing Windows 10. And if you have Windows 7 or 8, you probably already got a little ad on your machine saying, hey, it's reserved for Windows 10. But Microsoft released it early, I think, earlier than it really was ready. They had said for the longest time it'll be out in the fall of 2015. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, July 29th. And I think my general sense of this, talking to Windows experts, is Microsoft has never been able to get a new versions of Windows out in time for the school year. And they said, we're missing a lot of sales. Let's release it. It's in pretty good shape. Let's release it on July 29th. And then we'll do a big update in the fall when we were going to release it, that we'll get it right up to where it was going to be for the official release. And that's what's going to happen next month, or maybe, I think it's November now. You're going to get, they call it Threshold 2. That's the code name. Windows 10 was Threshold. They don't want you to say Service Pack, but that's what it is. A big, honkin' big update, a Service Pack that they hope will get it kind of compatible with everything. Now, one of the things I've said all along is you shouldn't upgrade to Windows 10 unless you know you're compatible. And how do you know you're compatible? Well, a couple of ways. They have a compatibility checker, which you didn't run. And I don't blame you. You were excited. I'm not knocking that. And they also, if you get the invitation and you said, yeah, I want it, they won't offer it to you. They're checking in the background, and they won't offer it to you until they're sure that every device that you have on your machine and your machine itself are compatible with Windows 10 and ready to go. So my advice has always been, if you've you reserved it or you accepted their invitation, not to upgrade Windows 7 or 8 to Windows 10 until they actually invite you to. The invitation is a signal, yeah, we now know you're okay. If you're going to go out and buy it as you did, you should run the compatibility checker first. You found an area of incompatibility. The fix will be a driver. It'll be a software fix, a driver from the manufacturer of the computer. You should go right now. You may have a fix already. Go to the company that made the computer and make sure you get the motherboard drivers for that computer. And then that way you'd be able to, one hopes, upgrade it. If it's still not working, then you might have to wait till Threshold 2 in November. If it's still not working, it may never work. It may not be compatible with Windows 10. And in fact, Microsoft's been pretty clear, especially with video. There's some video cards that just won't, they're not going to support. Now, this is really unusual for Microsoft. They have a history. In some ways, it's been an albatross around their neck of making sure that whatever version of Windows comes out, it works with everything that has ever come out before it. And Windows is loaded with lines specifically designed to make some things that older things work fine. My sense is that what's possible here is that it's just not supported. Maybe it will be. And then somebody in the chat room saying, maybe you're just doing the wrong settings. So this is certainly worth trying. Web 64 it would be funny if this was the answer. Windows P, okay, and then select PC Screen Extend from that menu, and see if you can extend to that second screen. You can actually extend, which means that you have extended the desktop. That usually that's what you want, where now you have the real estate of two screens. You can also duplicate. They used to call it mirror, remember? That's where you have the same thing on both screens. That's if you're giving a presentation, for instance, and you want to have your computer here and then have a big screen behind you that people who are watching the presentation can watch. You want to look at those settings, but Windows P, select PC Screen, and then extend, duplicate, or second screen, depending on what you want. On the other hand, there may be issues that are just complete compatibility issues that are not unfixable. We're going to put a link in the show notes to an article. Thank you, Dallas. This is from tech-recipes.com, and it's a kind of a step-by-step on how to use dual monitors with Windows 10. This might also help. The web is great for this kind of stuff. Microsoft itself puts out a lot of great information. But there are also wonderful sites like this where they just, out of the goodness of their heart, maybe a few advertising bucks, they put this stuff out. And so this is great. Tech-recipes.com. Hey, thanks for the call. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I built to answer tech questions. So let's keep on doing it. Noah in Wyoming. Leo Laporte here.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was calling because I'm wondering, I just got a new Android phone, and the emojis are just disgustingly ugly.
Which phone did you get?
I have a Galaxy Note 3.
Oh, you have the Samsung emojis.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is emojis, they started in Japan. Japanese schoolgirls apparently love sending little pictures to each other, and they took off. They're now part of the Unicode standard. Unicode is the industry-wide, technology-wide standard for what numbers represent what letters. We used to call it ASCII. Remember ASCII? It's now Unicode, and that's much broader because it has to encompass every possible alphabet and include a lot of lovely pictures. The problem with emojis is there's no specification for how they should be drawn. Apple does it one way. Pure Android does it another way. Samsung does it another way. They're all different. If you go to iemoji.com, it's actually, or there's Emoji Wiki. There's a lot of different sites where you could see how the emojis look on different platforms. But what your question really is, can I replace these emojis with the emojis from another platform? I'd be really careful about that because there will be apps in the Google Play Store that purport to do that, but you may not give you, they may have other side effects, maybe even malicious side effects you want to be careful about. One of the downsides to Android is its openness. And it's not unusual for, and Google will remove it as soon as they figure it out, but that may be too late for you. And they're usually kind of cheesy downloads, like wallpapers, emojis, things like that. So you have to be careful of downloading emoji replacement programs. And may even require you to use root your phone and use a different firmware. You certainly can do it that way. Or limit yourself to other programs. But you want to do it probably in SMS, in your plain old carrier SMS, right?
Because that's like why I called you first, is because I didn't want to download anything that
Yes, you're right. Thank you. So, for instance, if you use Twitter, the Twitter application, those are Twitter emojis. They're not the Galaxy emojis. It's only when you use the Galaxy built-in messaging and things like that that you see the Samsung emojis. You could use a third-party text messaging program like Textra. Textra allows you to... did you come from iOS?
No.
No. But if you want, Textra will allow you to use the iOS emojis. And the nice thing about Textra, first of all, it doesn't affect what others see. When you send an emoji, you're actually not sending a picture. You're sending just like you're not sending an A, B, C, or D. You're sending a number, and it's up to their device to say what that picture is. That's why emojis look different on different devices. So it's not going to change what you're sending. You're not sending a picture. It's only going to change what you see. So if you use a different program for SMS than the Samsung messaging program, like Textra, there's in the settings, you can say, I don't want to see these ugly emojis. I want to see the iOS emojis. So that's probably the best one to do. Everybody has different taste on this. Google has their own emojis. Apple has their own emojis. It's kind of silly. I'm sure that you can modify the software by hacking it. I don't think that's great. What I would recommend instead is a third-party text messaging. I like Textra, by the way. It replaces your SMS messenger that Samsung gave you, and in doing so, you can replace the emojis. We do have, I wonder if this works. This is from a website called Wonder How To. Thank you, chat room. How to swap out your Samsung emoji for more popular Google and iOS icon sets. This does talk about the Galaxy Note 3. You have to root. It's probably not what you want to do. You have to root the phone. You have to install BusyBox, which is a very handy utility set, but it requires a rooted phone. And then BusyBox, once you've got Super User, will allow you to download a program called Emoji Switcher. Requires root, and then use Textra. It's a lot easier. We'll put links to both in the website, techguylabs.com. Emoji is a fascinating story. And I think it's important to understand that you're not sending a picture, you're just sending a number, and it's up to the operating system of the recipient to decide what that's going to look like, or the software they're using. There's a wonderful site called Emojipedia. This is my favorite emoji site, emojipedia.org, where you can actually see what different emojis look like. You can see what they mean. So, for instance, I'm looking at the grinning face emoji, and the Apple is very different than the Google. It's very different than Microsoft. It's very different from Samsung. Everybody has their own look. Twitter has its own look. So it's now I sometimes get emojis. I just don't know what they mean. You ever get an emoji with like a picture? These are the little pictures that you get in your text. The one I see a lot lately is the two hands. It looks like they're making a goalpost. Sometimes there's little things coming off the top. You're young, you're hip. Do you have any idea what that means, Kim? No, she doesn't know. Anyway, you can look it up under the celebration emojis. They sometimes call it the hallelujah emoji, and you can figure out what it means. It's you know what's funny? Emojis are dead. Emojis are old. It's all about stickers now. Forget the emoji. Emojis are little tiny little dots. Stickers are big. I use a Telegram Messenger, which you can use emojis, but it also has big stickers and hundreds of different sticker packs. And the cool thing, when you use Telegram, you'll type in an emoji, like the thumbs up emoji, and then it'll show you all the stickers that correspond to that emoji. So you could send, a giant picture of Vladimir Putin, or I like to send Vladimir Putin doing a thumbs up, sometimes Donald Trump. It depends on the context. And that's why I like stickers, because there's subtleties of expression that a sticker can get over even better than an emoji. WhatsApp has emoji. They have stickers, right? Facebook Messenger has stickers. But Telegram's my current favorite. Maybe try that instead, Noah. But you got to get all your friends to use it. That's the problem. Dean, Northern California. Hi, Dean. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Quick question, please. I don't know much about electronics myself, but I'm assisting a disabled individual with a brain injury who has a hard time focusing in remembering things. I'd like to know what would be a couple of phone and one laptop option for him. He leans towards texting mostly with a phone because he loses his voice at times. Maybe something with a flashlight because he's always dropping things in the dark, and maybe the best battery life. I have to say, you're really looking in the right direction. In fact, you heard a caller earlier, and I kind of agree with him, saying that as I age and my memory gets worse, I find I use my devices to help me remember things, and it's really true. Google, a smartphone, you can look up anything instantly. I think for him, if he's got the money, because they are expensive, an iPhone would be a great choice. And the new iPhone 6S Plus, because it's got the best battery life of any modern smartphone, get him through the whole day. It has a flashlight that he can get to right in the bottom of the control panel. He can turn it on very easily. It'll do all those things you talked about, and it does it well, especially for people who have access issues. Really like it. iPhone 6S Plus, my recommendation. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I have a Mega Batman sticker pack.
It's important. I got to show you my Telegram stickers. I love Telegram. Yes, it's free for every platform. It's completely awesome. So I'll show you. Let's see, John. This is so I'm using it on the desktop here. There's 2 different Apple versions on the desktop. I'll show you. So this is. Let's see, how can I make this so that you can use it? So I'm going to send something to Johnny Jet. You see, I sent him a Popeye sticker already that said, good job. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So what I'm in the text thing. I click the emoji. Now, then it shows you all the emojis. Let's do the hallelujah hands emoji. But when you type that in, it'll show you in your sticker packs a variety of different emojis that do hallelujah hands. So here's Donald Trump doing it. Let's do some more of these. Here's Einstein doing it. See, I think stickers they're bigger for one thing, so they're easier to read, and they're kind of fun. Let's see, where's the hallelujah hand? Here it is. Or I can do, I don't know who that is. I think that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. But then I have all these sticker sets. So I have a whole Donald Trump sticker set. Here, I'll show you some of my sticker sets. But Donald Trump's not always the right sticker set, right? Sometimes you need a Taylor Swift sticker set. Sometimes you want to send somebody a Taylor Swift. Sometimes, maybe Taylor Swift's not quite right. You want to send a logo or memes or Big Bang Theory or flowers. If you got in trouble, you can send flowers, beautiful flowers. Or the guy from Fallout Shelter. I like stickers. I like them. Well, we're about to get on the road. Head on out of here. One more segment, though, before the show is over. Let me see if I can get a couple more calls in. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And Jim's in North Hollywood. He's our next caller. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I've got a little printing problem.
Okay.
I'm using an HP OfficeJet 6700 Premium.
Okay.
And I can make copies in the top of it and color okay, but from the printer, from the computer, I can only print in black and white. The color doesn't come through.
Oh, okay.
And it worked okay when I first got it and first got the computer.
And it's just stopped working.
And I updated to Yosemite. I don't know if that coincided with the time or not.
Yeah, what I might do is go to HP and get an updated driver. I bet you that'll help. A lot of times, Apple comes with drivers for every printer you might want to use, and so you usually don't have to get better drivers.
Right.
You just plug in your printer, and Apple says, "Oh, I got it right here." It even knows the name, when Microsoft does this as well. But sometimes they don't have maybe the latest, greatest, or the software is not complete. So I would go to HP. They have a very nice, right from the front page at HP.com, they have a button that says drivers. And go, and you're going to get exactly the driver for the printer that you're using, model number, as close as you can get. And, of course, you're going to get the Macintosh version. Make sure that the one that you get is compatible with Yosemite. I bet you that's what happened. I bet you just have a driver that doesn't work in Yosemite, and you want to get the updated driver, and then just hope that HP's updated it. Now, that's up to HP, by the way. And sad to say, especially with printers that are no longer being sold, it's not unusual. I wish this weren't the case, and I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but it's not unusual for a printer to get superannuated. It's out of date, and the company just says, we're not going to make a driver for it for the new operating system, and you're done. So, all I can say is the best you can hope for is to go to HP.com. and hope they've got a Yosemite driver for you. That's almost certainly what's going on. Mary in Newport Beach, California. Hi, Mary. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I have a question about getting a new laptop. I would like to get one that still has a capability of putting a CD and uploading music to my iTunes account. Don't make them anymore?
No, they do. Of course they do. What they tend to do now, because let's face it, physical media is going away. In fact, that's why you want it. Put the CD in there and digitize it so you can store it somewhere. Don't throw it away, but store it somewhere and get it out of your hair. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they do. They tend to be bigger laptops. So you're talking about a Windows machine? Or Mac?
Probably. I could probably afford a Windows.
Yeah. So Mac, the way Apple does it, Apple doesn't make anything that has a CD-ROM or DVD-ROM anymore, but they sell an external USB device.
Oh.
They call it the Super Drive. It's not very expensive. You just plug into the USB port and you do that. The nice thing about that, and this is what I'd probably recommend even for Windows, you're only going to use that CD drive once in a while. You're going to use it less and less, in fact, as time goes by. Why add to the size, weight, complexity of a machine for something you're not going to use after a while?
Okay.
And the good news is USB CD-ROM drives are cheap, $40 or $50. Okay. So yes, they do everybody makes them. Dell, HP, Lenovo, everybody makes them. They're bigger. They're what we call desktop replacements. Mm-hmm. Machines that still have this. Those are called optical drives, whether it's a CD or a DVD, and they'll be all DVD these days. But that doesn't mean they can't read and write CDs.
Okay.
They make machines with them. But I would get an external optical drive and just leave it at that.
Okay, and in that case, then, is it better less expensive to get one online than in a store?
Absolutely. Just go to Amazon.
Okay, and would the price range be maybe $300-400?
No, $50.
Oh, okay.
They're cheap.
Okay.
And they just plug into the USB port. You won't need special drivers or anything. Both Windows and Macintosh support it just fine.
Okay, and then on the computer, do you recommend getting the kind that I'm used to, or
kind of computer? Well, here's the thing, and I've sermonized on this before. In the old days, you had to buy a Mac or a PC, or maybe if you're really adventurous, Linux, because that's what was out there. Mm-hmm. Those general purpose operating systems are designed to do anything you might imagine. And that makes them more complex, more elaborate, more insecure, more prone to failure, because that's what you have to do to make it a general purpose computer. But I bet you, I'm going to guess, you don't do as much as that. You maybe surf the web and read email. Pretty much anything else you do, you burn some CDs.
I use it for documents.
Yeah, you read and write documents, yeah. So nowadays, you don't need, I think, as an elaborate a computer as we used to have to buy. So you can reduce the expense and the complexity. For a lot of people, and I think you're going to be one of them, a Chromebook is a good choice. These are less expensive than Windows PCs, much more secure, much less prone to problem. They are limited, though, because don't expect you can just download any bit of Windows software. You can't. You have to use what's on there, which is a browser. But nowadays, with Chrome extensions, there's not much you can't do. Google has a full Office suite. If you want Microsoft Office, they also have a web-based Office suite that's just like Microsoft Word and Excel, and it's free.
Oh, well, that's...
And you store your stuff, instead of on the computer, you store it in the cloud, which makes it available wherever you go. It's secure, and you don't have to worry. It's private and secure. I think for a lot... Now, Dell's making some mid-range Chromebooks. I don't know if they're out yet that I would look at. The really cheap Chromebooks are $200, but they're cheap. They're kind of cheap components. They're a little cheesy feeling.
So maybe $300-$400?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, look at Dell. If you can get one with, my opinion, 4 gigabytes of RAM, they really perform much better. Samsung makes some. Dell is starting to make them now. These are kind of mid-range Chromebooks, they're called. And at least consider it. I think the de facto thing was, well, I just got Windows. Everybody gets Windows. But really, that's so much more than most people need. And with that comes expense and complexity.
Okay, well, great. That's very helpful. I'll take a look at those.
Thanks. I appreciate the call.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
David is in Los Angeles. Last call of the day. I got about a minute and a half, David. I take it you're trying to decide between an iPad Pro and a Surface Pro.
Yeah, Leo. Thanks for taking my call. Been using iPad about 3 or 4 generations, but getting a little frustrated at not having all the functionality that I need on a laptop with some of the Office suites and multitasking. So I know the Surface Pro 4 is not out yet.
Probably will be soon. Microsoft has an event coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, the 6th, I think.
Yep.
So I just want to kind of get your sense on, I've seen the specs on the iPad Pro, but
problem is we really don't know anything about the iPad Pro yet. I'm very impressed by it, but it's going to come down to whether software that takes advantage of it comes out. What do you do with your computer?
It's mostly business, office.
Stick with the Surface.
A lot of multitasking.
Yeah, no, there's not even a question on this one. Surface Pro, the 3 is fine. The 4 will be even better.
Yeah, that was my dead sense.
Yeah. The iPad Pro is you're buying into a whole new idea. I wouldn't want to be the first on my block. Actually, I will be. I would want to be. But that's me. For business, no. Surface Pro 4. Surface is a great product. Microsoft's really put their heart and soul into it. And I think for business, you want to use Windows, and I think it's one of the best out there. We're out of time. Thanks for joining me, Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, it's just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows on the Netcast network. It's called TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts. For this show, we talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security and Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. You even get your daily dose of tech news with Tech News Today and Tech News Tonight. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.